I met Coach Dustin Baldis years ago at one of his Pittsburgh training camps, and I'll never forget how professional, structured, and inspiring it was. You could feel the standard he set for everyone in the room. Fast forward to today, he's one of Team USA's elite karate coaches, a man who's walked the same path as his athletes and continues to lead from the front. In this episode, we dive deep into his journey, from his early days grinding on the open circuit tournaments to representing the United States on the world stage and to shaping the next generation of champions through his legendary Pittsburgh elite camps. We talk perseverance, the mindset of a true competitor, the evolution of USA Karate, and how great coaching goes far beyond the medals. Dustin opens up about lessons learned at the Olympic Training Center, his mission to keep the sport growing, and what it really means to chase excellence for decades. This one's about legacy, passion, and the kind of leadership that leaves a mark on every athlete who crosses his path. Tune in, because the story of Coach Dustin Baldis isn't just about karate, it's about life, resilience, and purpose. What's up, guys? I'm sorry, go ahead. All good.
I did hit approve.
All right, guys, welcome back to the official Kumite Lifestyle Podcast, and today we're joined by Team USA's coach, Coach Dustin Baldis. Coach Baldis, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm super excited to sit down and chat with you, and I'll kind of go into how we met. So where are you right now currently in the world?
What am I ranked?
No, where are you at currently in the world? What's your location?
I'm in a great city, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah. So for anyone that's never been to Pittsburgh, what is like one or two things that you could say that kind of sell people to come and, visit the town or city?
Well, the aura about Pittsburgh is it's a steel mill town, and it's dirty, it's grimy. But we hosted the national championships back here in 2016, and one of the most common remarks that people were saying how clean the city is, and it is very high tech. It's a beautiful city. It's you're going to enjoy it. It's a little big town, so it's not like New York City, Chicago, LA. It's a bigger city than some of the smaller ones, and you're always going to run into somebody that you know.
Man, that's awesome. And you said something that's kind of and for even myself and for the viewers watching, when you mention the word city, I think it's easy to kind of think of New York or places that aren't, always clean. But like you said it yourself, Pittsburgh's one of the cleanest cities. And I've actually heard that from other people. So it's cool that you can kind of verify that since you're actually living in Pittsburgh. And then of course we have the Steelers and the Penguins. So it's definitely a sports town for sure.
Yeah, we don't talk about the Pirates.
Yeah.
So they change ownership. I don't talk about the Pirates. So we'll talk about the Penguins and Steelers anytime we want.
Gotcha. Very cool. Yeah. So for those folks that are watching, my relationship with Coach Baldis, on a professional sense, occurred probably around 2010, 2011. So a little bit about myself as far as how we got connected. Around that time period, I was competing with the AAU, AAU Karate, and I had just made it on the U.S. AAU national team, the junior team. And around that time, I also was kind of experimenting, if you will, between the AAU and the USA NKF or USA Karate, which I know you're very familiar with. And I remember at that time, I really wanted to not only get myself, I guess, known or recognized, but I wanted to get, better as a karateka. And Pittsburgh being not too far from Delaware, I took the opportunity with some dojo mates of mine, and we went up to your camp. And man, coach, something that I was really blown away was just how professional it was run. And when I found out that you were one of the team coaches, I was like, this makes sense, because this man, is running a great camp. He brought in all these great, all these guest appearances, if you will, and it was awesome. So let's kind of start with that. So I know you're currently the USA team coach, but I know you weren't always, the USA Karate coach. So let's kind of go back in time. When did you start your martial arts or your karate journey?
I started beginning to mid 1980s. So I got involved, and it wasn't because of the Karate Kid movies. I just got involved. It was one of those things that, I was doing all kinds of different sports, had the opportunity of really doing well in baseball, and going to college for that. And at some point, I just really enjoyed the Kumite aspect of
Yeah.
it. And I equated it to hitting a baseball when you don't even feel it hit the bat. That's what it feels like when you hit somebody. So that it's sort of related to each other, and I enjoyed it. The skill set that I developed in all those other sports, with the actually catching a ball, throwing a ball, hitting a ball, that's all timing, and it really related well with what I was doing in the martial arts. And I really didn't know about the sport aspect of it. I just got involved because I wanted to be part of learn a martial art, see things that I saw on TV, that we used to watch in the 70s and coming up. And it was really a fun opportunity. And I had a friend that said, come to my dojo. And the rest is history.
Man, that's awesome. And you said a couple things there where you started initially not for the sports side, but just for the activity, the self-defense, and just being surrounded by like-minded folks. And I was actually gonna mention Karate Kid because you said the 80s. But it's nice to hear, for once that someone started not because of the Karate Kid, just because of, interest. But it just happened to be around the time 80s, and like I'm a 90s kid, but I always hear stories from athletes and coaches from their time competing in the 80s and 90s, and man, like what a special time that would have been to be able to see that, and for yourself growing up in that era. So when you found out that karate was a sport in a sense where you could compete, kind of talk us through that because I know that essentially paved the way into your coaching career later on. And you mentioned Kumite. So when you started competing, did you compete in the traditional kata rounds and then Kumite, or was it more specifically targeted to one one specific thing?
Well, I wasn't involved with USA Karate at the time. When I believe it was AAU
Yep.
at that point before USA KF, which is USA Karate Federation with George Anderson.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was open. I competed throughout the open circuit. I was doing all these tournaments. We were doing a tournament almost every weekend, and it was really good back then. It wasn't because it was pretty solid martial arts. I mean, it was tough. It was gritty. It was a really good time, and sometimes we were competing twice on a weekend. We'd compete Saturday, then drive to another city and compete on Sunday.
That's
So we got
awesome.
a lot of competitions in. But to be when I first started, it took me a year and a half before I even placed in the top three. And so I was constantly lose, 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 and I think that was a really driving force on motivated me because I was sports minded. I was an athlete. I wanted to win, and it didn't deter me from going forward. Where sometimes nowadays people lose and they say, oh, "I'm done with that. If I'm
Yeah.
not going to win, I'm not going to keep." So we were really going hard at it, and then I had the opportunity going to the USA NKF national or regional tournament. They used to do three regions. They used to do the East, West, and South, three different regions throughout the country, and the top eight from each one of those went to the national championships, which was pretty cool. Of weaning it down and having the best of the best from all over the country. And I competed in both kata and kumite. So actually, my first trophy was in kata.
Nice.
So and I really liked it. I did well at it, and I used to place a lot. Then at the open circuit, I'd go and I'd win first place in kata, first place in kumite, first place in kata, first place in kumite. So that really steamrolled. And then in 1988, jumped back and I was jumping back forward. But I went to regional in New York, and I did well and qualified for the national championships that were in Las Vegas that year.
Yeah.
And then the history and at that point, I did well. I did better in kata than I did in fighting, from what I remember. And then the following year in 1989 is when I made the U.S. team.
Man, that's awesome. And you said that you're initially a Kumite guy, but you actually won in kata. So I think anyone watching that I think kata and Kumite kind of gets divided, I feel, especially maybe amongst the top competitors. And obviously yourself would know a little bit more just because you've been there and you've seen your athletes. But I think a good kata person can translate into a good Kumite practitioner, and maybe even vice versa. I think initially the athletes choose, what they want to, kind of solely focus on. I remember growing up as a kid, that, I would go to tournaments and my instructor, he would say, yeah, try all three. And when I say all three, also the Kobudo aspect. And I feel like once you got to a certain part in your career, and you were more like, serious about competing, then you could kind of pick one specific pedigree to go there with. So you mentioned how like around that time you were traveling to many different tournaments, and you said that the competition was pretty awesome there. Like the caliber was set high. So I'm curious, Coach, what was your training preparation like around that time? Because man, like kids nowadays with social media and just the options they have to kind of cross train is different, I'm sure, compared to what to how you were training. So talk us through like what was a typical training schedule like when you were leading up to like the bigger events?
Well, it wasn't really specified whenever we did it. We just went to the dojo. We did kihon, kata, kumite. So that was basically it, and always looking to improve and be better. We were the basics were extremely hard, intense. Then we did the kata. Then we finish out with the kumite. So it really wasn't as specific as it is now, where you might tailor to that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things is, I just went to the dojo. There was really nothing else that was happening other than just going to the dojo and training. And back in the day, uh, I come from very detailed and preparation for like different sports where you have the practice specific set of drills, like whether it's fielding in the for baseball or taking batting or practicing, different strategies and so forth in the field. And when we first came up, it was just put your pads on and fight. We did like a few reverse punches and a few kicks, and then all right, partner up, let's go. And then they just form a circle, and then we just fight. And it was like I wasn't really getting the development that I wanted. And at that time, also I was working at the YMCA in Pittsburgh because I was going to college at Robert Morris downtown Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
and the gym and I was doing Nautilus, if you remember what that is. Just the machines who are doing like circuit training,
Yeah.
and and because my all the instructors at that point were saying weightlifting really, it tightens you up, it's going to slow you down. So I'm in the YMCA and I'm working out next to the likes of Rod Woodson, who's in the Hall of Fame at
Yep.
cornerback,
Yep.
uh, uh, Hall and different linebackers that are in there working out, and I'm watching these guys, and they're in a free weight room, and they're down there dropping into splits, and they're putting up all this weight, and I'm like, okay, these guys are flexible, they hit hard, and they're fast.
Yeah.
Then I transitioned and then I started getting into the weight training aspect of it. And I started incorporating that into my routine of getting in condition. And then I hooked up with a few marathon runners and I started running and doing different things like that. And then I started, we were still just fighting at the dojo, and I had basically a reverse punch and a lead leg rocket.
Yep.
That's all I had.
And it worked every
And
time, right?
worked every time. And I had the timing to be able to throw it, and that was what I drilled, and that was it. Just a good drop in reverse punch, and it was good too because I was a left-handed type fighter, so I was throwing a left reverse punch, which threw people off, which I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just comfortable with that side, and and then when I went to the national championships in '89. Um, that's when I was a purple belt at the time. Believe it or not, I was a purple because there were some things that happened in my past training and delays and different things. So
Sure. Sure.
financial and stuff like that, where I really couldn't pay for the lessons, so they kept me at a rank for a certain period of time until it was paid up.
Yeah.
So I was like a yellow belt for like a year and a half.
Uh, but you really
And
weren't a
then
yellow
when
belt, right? Like it was just the
I
fact
really
that,
was not a yellow
yeah.
belt,
Yeah. I gotcha.
and and some things happened, and I was sort of pressured into going into the advanced division in '89, and that was then when they did 18 to 20,
Yeah.
and I won. I beat all the black belts, and I was wearing my purple belt, believe it or not, because that's when they
Man.
just put the little
So what were
white
people
or red
thinking?
flag on their back.
Yeah, so like
Right?
I can only imagine being a black belt and I'm facing a purple belt, man. Like do you remember there were like do you remember their reactions thinking, man, like why is a purple belt beating me? Or did you feel like I wonder if they feel like I'm sandbagging right now? So like what were the emotions then?
It was I was just drilling people. I just remember that. I just had something to prove because of what somebody pressured the situation where I had to make the jump from intermediate whatever into the elite division,
Sure.
and my final, I vividly remember my final. I hit this out. I'm not going to say his name because he's a cool kid, and at the time,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like I drilled, and that's whenever you could really hit hard, and the pads were like this thin.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was no padding, and some people would take the padding out and put tissues in there, so you would feel more bare knuckle. But I hit him so hard, dropped him down to the ground, and it was like they didn't believe it because I'm hurt about, and they went and gave me contact, and I ended up still winning the match. And he came up, he goes, "You should have never got penalized for that," and he was really respectful in that manner. And that's when I made that the gold. I won the gold, and then I got to compete at the Junior Pan Am Championships at that point, and that's when I got the invitation to be one of the first people and teams to go to the Olympic Training Center in 1989. And at that point, that's whenever everything opened up my eyes, like the
Yeah.
sports specific training, the psychology, the intensity, being around the Olympians at the Colorado Springs Olympic Training Center.
Yeah.
And that's when it became more sports specific type training at
Yeah.
that point, where everything just opened up.
Yeah. And yep. Yeah, man, thank you for sharing that because I remember you mentioning how like the first couple of years you didn't have the success, you weren't winning, but you had that perseverance. And I feel like that moment when you were a purple belt and you won that division, maybe just based on what you're telling, that was like your groundbreaking moment. And then you transition and then you go to the Olympic Training Center, and then you're like, man, I'm actually here, right? It's like that must have been such a surreal feeling, I'm sure, you know?
It was, yeah. You're walking where giants have walked.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
also, and it was really cool. And the training was hard. It was like we did 2 3 hour trainings, so it wasn't like nowadays where it was like an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, maybe an hour and a half left.
Yeah.
And it's short, intense, and to the point where we just did volume. And it was just when we were training there, uh, they had us training on the hardwood. And it was right where it was in the gymnasium where the dream team actually ended up preparing for the '92 Olympics. But
Oh
it was
man.
that facility, and um, I had 6 blood blisters on each foot. I had a blood blister on my pinky toe. How do you get a blood blister on your pinky toe?
Are you
And
serious?
I'm like walking on the edge of my feet, and like coming up, and there's so much pain because if you ever have blood blister, when you stand up, all the blood rushes right to it. It's just
Yeah.
extreme pain. But as soon as we started training, the adrenaline took over, and we just went right at it. And it was just working out with all these guys that were on the U.S. team at the time, the seniors, just whooping us, beating us hard, and just giving it right back. And that was a really enjoyable time. It's something embedded into my memory. And it's just being in the dormitories, food halls, just everything that was there.
Absolutely. And I'm curious. So there's two things I want to kind of expound from that. But before I do, I want to just ask when you were going to the Olympic Training Center and you were making a name for yourself and you're, kind of feeling your way, if you will, who were some of the top athletes, from USA Karate and even the coaches at that time that you looked up to? Like who had a pretty profound moment in that developmental stage of your karate career at that time?
But there was, several top people that were there. Don Madden was the head coach of the U.S. team at that time.
Yep.
So he was there running the trainings. We had George Anderson was out there, of course. Uh, uh, Makami, who actually is a direct student of Funakoshi.
Yep.
The first time I actually really heard Japanese too. When I was because I'm a Washigiri. I said, "What's a Washigiri?" We call it flip kick.
Yep.
Where I was coming from. So it really was not. We were like in a Shotokan dojo, but it wasn't. There was no Japanese. It was just all English, and it was just funny because he was teaching, and it was really just the detail of what they were doing, the technical aspect of what they were showing was really cool.
Yeah.
Don Madden has really good. I enjoyed him for his psychological type approach.
Mhm.
He made you feel like you wanted to run through a wall, and some of the things he said and motivated you to do. And yeah, you might not have felt up to it. Like I said, you have all that in the pain in your feet walking down there, but as soon as they say something, you get up and you just go. It's
Yeah.
like I'm here. I might not be back here again. And so those were the two, Ridgely Abel. I don't know if you remember who Ridgely
Yeah.
Abel is. He's up
So,
in South Carolina. He was
so,
part of that as well.
so funny story about Master Abel. I don't know if it was his grandson or I don't know what the connection was, but I used to train with a student that had the same last name. And he said, "Yeah, I have a relative that is pretty big in karate," and I thought nothing of it. So he showed me a picture. I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's crazy!" And then you just mentioned his name, so it's just crazy
Yeah,
how
and
like karate is
he's
a small world.
right. And that was the really got introduced to sweeping,
Yeah.
and they're really doing some because he was really proficient at that and skilled at teaching and doing that. And it was really cool because the connection got there because his one student Troy Price was there as well.
Hmm.
He was, and they put like heart monitors on us, and they were testing our heart rates as we were fighting. It was pretty cool. But those are the really three main guys that stand out. But also Cedric Barksdale. I don't know if you know Cedric Barksdale.
I don't, unfortunately.
He's a WKF referee. He's one of the highest referees in the U.S. and that was I think his last year of competing, and
Mm.
so he was on the U.S. team, and that's where I met him, and got a good close relationship with him at this point in my career right now.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So you're at the Olympic Training Center and you're training with the best at the time. Talk about your international career. So did you get a chance to compete much overseas?
A lot, yes. Well, as soon as I won the 18 to 20, that was my last eligible year actually via the Junior Pan American Championships, and
Yep. Yep.
okay, I ended up taking a silver in the individual and a gold with the team. And on the team, well, the individual, I kind of got disqualified in the final, but but again, I was still, new to this. I didn't understand it. I was coming from the open circuit. It was just like
Yeah.
be first, hit hard, and do the best you can with that. And with the team, I was the final fight, and that's something we can get into going down the road. I was always the final fight,
Yeah.
and I was able to pull out the win for the gold with that. And then so that was my junior, the extent of my junior career,
Yeah.
one time. Uh, then at that point, I went to the team trials in 1990, and I was first alternate, and then the guy that was second opted out and gave me my first introduction to international, or with the seniors going to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and competing down there. And I ended up, and I was still, I was a brown belt, so I was still at that point, and
Still
I
not a
ended
black
up
belt yet.
not a black belt yet, and I got my black belt that year, but I took fifth, and nobody knew anything about me. I was just this blonde haired. I know I don't have hair now, but I was blonde hair. I had toe head, and I went down there, and I just wasn't really fitting in with anybody. The
Yeah.
New Yorkers were the New Yorkers, California and the West Coast were the West Coast. So it was like I'm from mid Western Pennsylvania. It's like and I got roomed up with Chris Nicholas, who was the same in my category. And I went out there and I ended up fighting in the second round the reigning world silver medalist, and I beat him. And
Dang.
Manuel, who ended up national coach for Canada, and it's like everybody started like eyes perked up. Like I just beat this guy that
Yeah.
just got back from the championships with the silver
Yeah.
in previous fall, and then I ended up going to the semifinals, and I lost to Mexico, and then I ended up losing. I didn't know what was going on. I still didn't understand what was going on. I just reverse punch, lead leg run. Uh, that was still my skill set. I really didn't get too much of that, and I ended up just getting fifth place. And I said, "What do I get for that?" And they said, "Handshake." So and I didn't know.
Yeah.
But
And back then there
at
was no
that
social media, so you couldn't post it. You couldn't share it with the world.
right, and we still have like hard copy pictures from it.
Which I think is
Yeah,
cool. Like I love looking back at the old pictures from the 80s and 90s and the
yes.
athletes. I think that's pretty special. Um, so when you were competing overseas, so I'm also an avid wrestling fan, so I watch a lot of USA wrestling as well. And I know there's certain countries that, have always been top tier, like the Iranians and the Russians. So for USA Karate, and not speaking so much now, but when you were competing, who were some of the heavy hitters? And maybe it's not a specific country, but were there consistent athletes from overseas that that you kept tabs on, or did you really not know who you're going to face because maybe that connection or maybe the studying of athletes wasn't as available at the time?
Yeah, it wasn't, and it was actually VHS. And
Yep.
so you had the VHS tapes, and the top teams, and I was aware of it, but I didn't know like who. Like it was England, France, Italy, Spain, and of course Japan.
Yeah.
And there, and then you had the other ones sporadically jumping in here and there. Really, no one from the Americas were doing well
Mm.
in any of the world championships, but it was mostly those were the big countries at the time, and so we really didn't have anything to look at. And like I said, like 1990 was my first time going to the Pan American Championships, and this is a I went to the semifinals every single time I ever competed at the Pan American. So I made it all the way, and I ended up winning, and getting bronze and gold here and there. But it
Yeah.
was like that was pretty sustainable doing that. But going to the World Championships, you're going in blind, and
Yeah.
this is where everything changed for me. I went to the '92 World Championships in Granada, Spain, and I went to the second round and I lost to is it Holland,
Yeah.
and I I got beat pretty good. And but if I would have beat him, I would have had to fight the reigning world champion from Turkey, Aligas. And if I beat Aligas, then I had to fight England, who actually won the world championship.
Yeah.
Oh no no no! No. Yeah, England won the world championship that year. So it was really it was a hard road. If I would have had the worst draw ever.
Yeah.
But I was sitting up there watching the competition after I was finished. I was like, what the am I doing? I was watching these guys move. I was watching what they were doing. I was seeing their movement. I was still that stationary type
That
go
movement.
at it,
Yeah.
and didn't have much movements into what I was doing. And then at that point, I went back and I changed my whole outlook on approaching what I was going to do to prepare
Yeah.
from that point on. That was an eye opener watching the Englands, the Spain, the French, the Italians going at it, and Japanese haven't changed much.
No, they have not. And even in
they
wrestling,
what they
like,
do,
yeah.
great intercepting, timing, and they're coming at you. There's no setback on them.
Yeah, I saw something recently with Olympic wrestling, how like Japan, the athletes, they all kind of intermingle and train with each other. So the speed is very consistent, throughout the different sports. So yeah, Japan's been very consistent in that sense. Um,
Yes.
so before we jump into your coaching career, because that's something that I definitely want to, get to know more of, because as an instructor and as a sensei myself, I always love to pick the brains of those that have come before me and those that have really set that bar high and in yourself. And you
Mm-hmm.
said something a little bit earlier, how when you were training for these top events, aside from the Olympic Training Center, you didn't feel that there was a strong developmental program. And I feel like when I went to Pittsburgh, and maybe it's just through trial and error and things that you wish that you had when you were coming up, but that camp was, in my opinion, such a strong grassroots. And I know USA Karate and AAU has done such a good job with that. And I can tell you, like in 2010, that was my first exposure to the USA NKF. And I'd watch YouTube. I remember seeing George Kataka and some of the top guys. I'm thinking, oh, that's pretty cool. But to be there in real time, I think it was in South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina. And then I see all these young kids, like maybe 13, 14, wearing like, the Team USA jackets. I'm like, that's amazing right there. So I was just inspired just by like all these younger generations coming up and how deep that pool was. And I know with the AAU, Coach Ingram, Coach Adamson, and Coach O'Hara, like they were really big into the basics. So as a coach, when you're running your camps or, these other, grassroots camps, if you will, ideally, what's the fundamental like what do you want the athletes to get out the most when they attend these camps, whether it's a beginner, let's say athlete, to your more seasoned veteran that, decides to go to these camps to get better, from a coaching
Well,
mindset.
you hit the nail on the head. Like I wanted better, so I wanted more for my athletes in my dojo. First of all, uh, coming up because it really wasn't, like I said, the approach was pretty bland on just they would just train us, and
Yeah.
then like in 1992 and to 93, that's when I really got taken under the wing of Hariyahu Igaki. Igaki was the head coach for the U.S. team for many years, and at that point, he was training myself and several other people that were on the U.S. team, and that's where I got sort of. I said that when I was watching the World Championship, it was eye opening. I we're we're not Japanese, and we're not specifically Europeans. We're Americans, so we have a nice blend of both. I was getting the Japanese training, and it was really drill, 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 like you're talking about with the coaches from AAU. It
Yeah.
was a lot of drill and fundamental stuff, Kumite style, not just Kihon, but fundamental Kumite and breaking that down. And I had a really, it was unique on how I would look at things and I would break things down like paint. I always say this in my dojo, like paint by numbers. I don't know if you remember, you go one number to that. That's how I train. It was
Okay.
like you got to do this. People go this and this and this and this, and that's really when I started breaking down Igaki's training and bringing it back to Doug Selgin, who was the heavyweight on the U.S. team at the time, and he was one of our best heavyweights until recent history with her and Eddie Sagalin, who's on the current champion.
Yeah.
But that's whenever I was the junior. Doug was my senpai, but I was bringing the training aspect into it because that's where I went to it personally as a professional to weight training, conditioning, and doing those type of things, and bringing the physical fitness aspect into the technical aspect of it. And then throughout the '90s, I was probably one of the first ones that introduced weight training to John Fonseca and George. And I sort of wrote the programs and gave sort of an idea for where they go, and they just took it and ran with it, and they just became phenomenal in what
Yeah.
they do. But I was the first one doing speed and agility, the weight training, and different things that brought it to the U.S. team. But throughout those '90s, people would come in, train, and it was just getting together and everybody working together to build each other up. And uh, whenever I retired in 2000, I didn't want what we developed a momentum throughout the '90s and how our team just kept going up. Because I said France, Italy, Spain, Japan, they were all like the top. And then we started having success in 1996 when John Fonseca won the bronze.
Yep.
We sort of like broke through. And then that's when in '98 we did really well. And then 2000, George took a bronze. And then George won the gold in '02 as well as
Yep.
Elisa Al. Uh, but when I retired, I did not want to lose that momentum that we were gaining. So that's why I started my training camp.
Yeah.
And
I'm so glad
because
you
there
did.
was nothing going on. Yeah, we were doing it all in the '90s. We were going to the Olympic Training Center, the Lake Placid, Colorado Springs. We were doing that and we were getting together and training, but that was it. And then we would go to maybe Chicago, train at the dojo there, or New York, or wherever. We traveled so much just to get that training with each other. And throughout those trainings, I have a notebook like that of all the things that were ever done, and it was amazing. And that what I had, and that's one of the things I tell my athletes: write down, take your notes, write down. If you like it, you like it. Put it in your own words. However it's presented to you, you might not understand, and how I might be presenting it. Write it in your own words, so you understand it that way. Um, but I started this training camp. I had Tommy Hood, who was on the U.S. team at that time, John Fonseca, and we had a sports psychologist who would come in and talk to the athletes in between the camp. And at that point, the reason it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing from that point.
Man, that's awesome.
I think I
So,
think I covered what you wanted to ask.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you did. No, like that was an awesome explanation, and you kind of talked about how so from what I got from that, and hopefully the viewers do too, is it didn't happen overnight, and you wanted that momentum to continue even as we continue to advance in the 2000s, 2010s, and even now. And I've seen that with USA Karate, and just the caliber of the students, in my opinion, has gone up. Now, I'm not a coach, for karate, so I don't see that firsthand, but it's nice to know that. Well, and I'm sure as a coach for you, it's nice to know that all the hard work and all the things that you had to maybe lack thereof, the things that you didn't have for yourself, you can not, like, now give that to your students and the athletes that come to you. I'm curious. So when you're on the road and you're about to coach, whether it's the junior team or the senior team, and you have these different athletes coming from different parts of the world. I'm sorry, not the world, but different parts of the country. You might have an athlete that's maybe at this level, they're still good, and then you maybe have an athlete that's here and they're still on the team. What message or like what type of training do you do for the athletes when they're at the venue, or like what's the mindset game there? Because is it tough sometimes for an athlete to feel like, man, coach, I don't feel like I deserve to be here. Like, yeah, I won, but I'm not as good as your student, or vice versa. So as a coach, how do you relay a message like that where, the athlete knows, like, no, like you're here, and like, you got here because of your hard work.
Yeah, and you know, getting back to my camp, and that was to bring athletes together and try to see them, and
Yep.
it was, and I always offered it free to number one, number twos to come and train that were part of the U.S. team, senior team. So it was always free for any of them to come, and it was a discounted for the other ones as well. But uh, that that approach of the camp was the ability to get them and see them maybe prior to going on a trip. I started coaching the U.S. team in 2005. Officially, I was working with athletes and doing things from certain years, and it was always under the radar. I didn't want any recognition. I didn't want anything. I just wanted to see athletes win. That's how my whole career's been. It's just like because I'm not making any money. I wasn't charging them. It was not for. It was not pay to play or pay to train. It wasn't none of that. Just come on in. We'll work. We'll drill. What can we do to be better? And if it was even somebody in my division, it was like it's because if I made them better, that forced me to be better. And it was just at
Yeah.
that point, even though I wasn't competing, that was towards the end of the that was the mindset. Somebody better stay on top and be there.
Yeah.
But when we get to these things, and back then it was just like you show up with the team, and you had about 3 days of training,
Yeah.
and it was sort of like trying to figure out, what their skill set is.
Yeah.
And you'd have, like you said, you'd have a really skilled athlete that was easy. It was like you could go through and what might be happening in the match before, what you can do to capitalize on what they're doing, and expose their mistakes and expose their weaknesses, and crush out their strengths. But then you have the athlete that's like can't walk and chew gum at the same time. And
Yeah.
but that became a challenge with some of us. It was like I want to
Sure.
pull a rabbit out of the hat, and I did a couple of times, and more than a couple of times. But just simplify. Don't do everything that you've ever been taught. Let's look at what this person's doing. Let's figure out what we can do to capitalize on it, and let's have success. And that was actually more gratifying than the athlete that won, that was really good. That was fun and everything. But seeing somebody that really shouldn't have been there, that maybe got there because it was just a weaker division at the nationals,
Yeah.
and you work with them. That was really satisfying to see, and because at that point you motivate them to be even better, and then they go and seek out the knowledge and skills, and what they need to do, or they just quit and they're happy with that medal.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And you said something, oh, like even if they're not the best ones in the room, just being surrounded by the best athletes and the best coaches naturally
Yeah,
elevates your game. And no, that's cool that, USA Karate and even the coaches that I've had, with the AAU have it's very similar mindsets. Okay, so I gotta ask, you found out that, karate's in the Olympics, not today, but back then. What's going through your mind, man? Because I feel like karate should be a consistent Olympic event, but I also have my own opinions on that just because there's so many different organizations and fractions within karate, which is why we'll never be a united front, in my opinion. But I think USA Karate has done a great job. But man, if, and again, just maybe not to get political, but if AAU and USA Karate could just get together, that would be such a
Yeah.
strong immersion. That's just me. But again, like you're the
No,
subject
no,
matter
it's
there.
more than just you. It is AAU has tremendous amount of great athletes,
Yeah.
and I don't know why they don't take the jump over. I don't know why they don't test their skills. Um,
It's comfort, man. Because like if you can win the AAU and everyone knows NKF is like the best or even harder, like why? It's like it's almost like a big
and I,
fish in a small pond
that's
mentality.
a bad set on as an athlete.
I agree.
And no instructors have their differences, and they don't want to support here and there. But if do you want to play in the Little League World Series? Or you want to play in a Major League Baseball World Series?
Exactly.
And yeah, you can win that one, and that's tough. It's challenging. It's good, and you go to a team trial, and you become part of the team there,
Yeah.
or you go to a team trial and you fight your ass off, and you win. And it's
Yeah.
and it's fair how where we have round robin to double elimination. It's like you can't deny who
Who's
the
good?
best fighters are.
Yeah.
And I really I've talked to several different instructors that I know that are involved with the AAU, and it's unfortunate to the Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, we thought we were going in '92. We thought we were in '96, 2000. All these years we were going, and then we were going to go and for 16, and that's when golf got in. Golf
I
got in because
it's
Tiger
crazy.
Woods video that he was gonna all the golfers were gonna treat it like a major, and they're all gonna go in there and play. And that's 2 weeks after that he gets in this incident and where he's hitting golf clubs into the car and everything else, and the world falls off for Tiger Woods, and we're
Yeah.
not in, and golf is, and Rio didn't have a golf course,
Yeah.
PGA golf field. But then at that point, I knew it was really going because it was going to be in Tokyo,
Yeah. Yep.
the Olympics.
That was so cool.
When we got in, it was ecstatic, and and we should be in there. It's one of the most. That's probably one of the most viewed sports in the Tokyo Olympics.
Karate was.
It's yes. I forget what the viewership was, but it's up there.
Wow.
It's tops. And before the Tokyo Olympics even happened, we were out.
Mm.
We weren't even going to Paris,
Why
and
is that
I
though?
don't know I
Like,
don't know all the details. I hear rumblings that there was a disagreement between the president of WKF and the IOC. It's in France that was making that decision,
mm,
and they weren't even going to let it get to that point. And there must be such animosity towards it because France probably would be guaranteed 3 gold medals at the Olympics in Paris if it was in there because
yeah.
they had such a good team,
Yeah.
and phenomenal. But the build up to it was amazing. I knew at the time I probably was not going to be able to go and coach in the Olympics themselves. So I personally made a sacrifice. I was going to go to every K1, every Series A event that was a qualifying process for the Olympics,
Yeah.
and I went to one. I was able, and the only reason I didn't go to the one is because I was at the Junior Pan American Championships, and I couldn't go to the next one, to the
Yeah.
adult ones. But that was gratifying on my end, getting us being with those athletes, giving them the support system, giving them the whatever they would need in that process for those like 3 years of every 2.5 weeks I was traveling somewhere in the world.
Yeah.
It was crazy, and I was actually getting on a flight the Monday right after they shut the country down for COVID.
Yeah. The whole world shut down. Yep.
But I would have been stuck in Morocco for whoever how long. I still might be living there if I would have made that flight.
Yeah.
But yeah, just getting in, getting to the Olympics was an amazing thing, and even certain people in that organization, the other side, the AAU, kept telling me, "Oh, we're going to be in the Olympics," and I'm like, "No, you're not." I'm like, "It's
Yeah,
pretty set. WKF is going to the Olympics," and some pretty high up individuals told me that,
I know.
uh, and it's just like, come on, let's all work together, and
Exactly.
uh, having those athletes jump over and be part would be phenomenal, and I think it would be a really enhancement to the U.S. team to grab some of those athletes. And you can do both. You don't have to just pick one or the other.
Yeah. So
I
when you
mean,
were, yeah, I do like 1,000%. And I love the fact that you said, if people could just, from what I'm hearing, just it's too many egos and too many politics, and I think everyone wants to be the head person, but I think at the end of the day, everyone knows what's up. I think USA, I don't know. I don't think I know that USA Karate is definitely, you know, has its place, where, karate lies and I think AAU is just as good. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's a topic for a whole different day. So when you talk about the
yeah,
qual,
I mean, I go into that, and who knows what comes out of this, but the leadership we have now, and what the organization is doing right now is nothing but pushing forward for the best of the best in the athletes.
yeah,
Um, I can't say much previous.
sure.
They really didn't care too much. There was not much promotion for karate. It was not much promotion for the Olympics. It
Mm,
was it was embarrassment that we didn't take that opportunity that Taekwondo took in '88 and exploded Taekwondo throughout the whole world in this country. We could have easily done that with karate being in the Olympics,
yeah.
and there was no interest whatsoever from the previous organization leadership.
Wow. And that was even after Tokyo or
No, up to Tokyo.
up to Tokyo, sorry.
Uh, yeah, and yeah, there was just a lot of missed opportunities that that USA Karate could be so much further along than it is now. And right now, we're doing phenomenal. The
Yeah.
last 5 years, we've been killing it
Yeah.
since the new leadership has taken over.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need the right leaders or certain key players and certain spots to make those changes. So I'm curious. I mean, I've been a little. I mean, I still follow USA Karate a little bit, not as much as I used to. But now that I've been, having this platform and just talking to different athletes and coaches from both sides, if you will, I've been following up. But how do you feel right now, like from a world comparison? How is USA Karate like matching up with, those other top countries you would say? Are we in the top five, the top 10? I don't know. I just want to kind of get a more
Uh,
understanding of that.
it is on an upward swing right now with it, and um, with everything that we've done, and you know, like jumping back to my elite camp, we proposed something in '07 to do regional trainings
Yeah.
and doing breaking the country down into 4 quadrants.
Yep.
And that was in '07. It was a great presentation. It was what we're going to do. And it was not to personally gain financially. It was just to build, because it was hard. It's hard to travel to Colorado or West Coast, come to Lake Placid. It was very difficult. So
Yeah.
we were breaking it down. We're in the quadrants, and we were all going to be able to do camps in all those quadrants and get everybody exposed. And it was shut down. Nobody wants camps. So in recent time, we it all came to play at the World Games in Birmingham. Um, I was down there with Coach Burns, the head coach at the time, and we were just
Brody.
sitting there,
Yeah.
and yeah, we were
Yep.
trying to, how do we get a training camp in before the Junior Pan Championships? And I was like, why don't we do 3 camps around the country? I'll do one in Pittsburgh, you do it in Texas, and then let's call John Lamcaco and see if he can do one in California.
Yep.
So we're sitting there in our dormitory at the World Games and gave John a call, Coach Lamcaco, and he said, yeah, yeah. And what we did is we picked the specific weekend, and I had a big group from the East Coast, where we had the South, and Coach Lamcaco had all the West Coast, and then we did a Zoom where everybody got in and like waved and like, hey, we're all training together, like together, but not really, but it was
Yeah.
a joint thing. And that at that time, our CEO was like, well, "How do you get people to do that?" I says, "We made a phone call.
Yep.
That was it." They never wanted to do any of that, and that's what birthed the regional training camps that we do. And
Nice.
since we've been doing these region training camps, our team has excelled and got to the top level where we are in medal contention at the World Championships each year. And the World Cup, when we took the team, and that's a pretty big thing internationally. Individually, are great, but
Yeah.
when you have a country wins, because it's viewed as the country,
Yep.
we qualified our men's and women's team in the Pan American Championships in Uruguay. That was and you had to win top three, gold, silver, and bronze medalists got qualified for the first World Cup ever. It was in Pamplona, Spain. And our guys' team was young, and we were limited. Tom Scott was injured; he couldn't compete. And another athlete opted out
Mm.
for school, so we had a very young team that was there. It had some veterans, so the men's team didn't do as well as we were just really hoping to get out of the elimination rounds. But our women's team kicked butt, and they made it all the way to the finals, and that really opened eyes throughout the world. So now we are our women's team took silver. They lost to Japan, but
Yeah.
that was that's a statement there.
Yeah.
And then we had several people in the medal rounds in Budapest at the individual world championships the following year. And right now we have really great contenders to take a medal in Cairo in a few weeks. But I can't give you the exact ranking, but in
No,
the
it's all good.
history, I think we're top 15. And this is not like, three different countries. This is 185 countries
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the world. And when I see online people going to world champion and world events, and there's like five countries. It's like, like no, it's not world.
It's like 3 out of 5. That's great.
Yeah, fantastic. But we have a great opportunity this upcoming. We have some great athletes that because I don't know if you know the new format for the World Championships.
I do not.
It's top 32 in each division,
Okay.
so only 32 people in each division. It'll be pool play to the quarters, to the semis, to the medals, and you had to qualify either your continental, like gold, silver, bronze medalist from the Pan Americans or Oceanic or Asian. Or the European,
Yeah.
then they go and they qualified for the World Championship, and then they had a Paris qualifier, which was a few weeks ago, where we qualified one of our athletes, Eddie, in the heavyweight division. So we have some good medal opportunities. Even Ariel Torres, who's a
Yeah. Yep.
number 2 in the world, should be number 1, but he's a phenomenal kata player. Is Sakura Kokomai. She has great opportunity to medal. Tom Scott,
Yep.
obviously medal contender Trinity Allen. We have Skylar Lingle, who's a 3-time Pan American champion and part of the World Cup team that took the silver. She was like the anchor of that team that got him into the finals.
Wow.
We have Evangelist Atke and Eddie Sager.
Yeah.
So a really strong team and a great opportunity to take a medal,
Yeah.
if not several.
Yeah, like I recognize some of those names for sure just growing up. And Tom Scott was actually at the camp that I was at that one year. And yeah, it's just like what amazes me aside from their athletic prowess is most of the people that I've met and even yourself are just really good human beings. And something else that I really like is you guys seem to be a very tight-knit community. It's like once you guys are friends, you guys stay friends for a while. And I think that helps, especially with athletic development. Because when you trust the coaches and trust each other, makes everything so much better, I feel.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, you develop that relationship with the athletes, and sometimes it's hard to break that barrier. Like because
Mm.
I've had um, athletes that went up against Tom that were basically his competition,
Yeah.
and that would then play second to him every time, and but Tom was able to balance. Yes, I'm trying to beat you in these team trials, but as soon as the trials are over, you're a member of the U.S. national karate team.
Yeah.
And so you're not a member of yeah, yes, you're WIKF or we're Pennsylvania Shotogan Karate or Jininkai, where that's over with.
Yeah.
Once you become part of the U.S. team, that's a fraternity for the guys, sorority for the women. It is a bond that lasts forever. And that camp you're talking about that Tom came to, that was Tom was actually used to come and train at the camp. And one of the things about my training camp is you're never going to have someone bad. You're going to always have somebody that's a good person at heart.
Yeah.
And that's how I vet everybody that I am not going to bring you in unless I believe you're a good person,
Yeah.
as well as a great. You got to be a great athlete
Sure. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be able to structure at the camp. But there's some been great ones. I'm like, nah, that's all right. I'll pass.
Yeah.
Uh, and he's been one that's been the staple for the U.S. team over the last 2 decades.
Yeah. And something about you, coach, and just being able to interact this last hour or so, is there's a quote that I live by. It's like people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And man, you embody that. Just to, like I can just tell by your passion. And you said something with Tom Scott, and just it's like you want to bring in the best people, but you also want to make sure that they're people that, people can look up to. And I think that's awesome. It speaks volumes to like you're not just there for the medals or for the clout. You're there because you want the overall development for your athletes. And I think that's awesome. I think what you're doing is great.
Thank you.
Of course. Coach, one last thing. If there's one thing that you could change about karate, what would it be?
Stop changing the rules. uh, Now, Major League Baseball doesn't. They've been the same way for 150 years.
It's very consistent, I know.
Yeah, they're always tweaking. They're getting better at it, but uh, right now, I'm not, and nobody else is opposed to this either. I think, other than referees,
Sure.
but PR card that we can challenge if no calls are made. And you saw the point. And as a coach, you actually got to know the rules better than the referees, and you got to have an eye for what's happening.
Yeah.
And I have no clue how to miss some of this stuff because some of the points are so blatantly obvious that you got to stand up and do a VR card and you get approved. But I hope it goes this way. But the VR card for challenging for points they called that were no good.
Mm,
Uh, so, like, even at the World Cup, one of our heavyweight athletes was fighting, and the kick went over the head like that, and he got an ippon. And that was the difference in the match of us winning that team bout.
gotcha.
If he would have won the match, we would have been to the next round.
Mm,
But that's something you could have stood up and say, "Hey, that missed," and they called it because and quite honestly, you can't blame the referees completely because the game is so fast.
yeah.
Some things happen so quickly. Like, did that really happen? Because the blazing speed, and it's a human error.
Yeah.
So that's okay, but give us the opportunity to challenge against it. I don't know if you like football, if you watch the
A little bit.
Chiefs and the Bills, but they were debating this on the radio the other day about Mahomes threw the ball and it got tipped,
Mm,
and he got called for intentional rounding. And he was saying it was tipped, and they showed the slow motion, and the ball got tipped,
mm,
and that's not challengeable in the NFL.
yeah.
But they're able to challenge all these other things that are pretty similar. So that's something in the sport that I would like to see changed is the ability to challenge for points against. And so it's one card. You lose if you lose it for the challenge against, it's gone. If you lose it for the challenge for, then it's gone. But you get to keep it on
Yeah.
the other hand. So uh, that's about the main thing. Other than that, there's a beautiful aspect of the sport.
Yeah.
And if you see, everyone's able to do all these self promotion videos and stuff, and it's some pretty cool stuff. These guys are phenomenal athletes. They're fast, explosive, and it's a art in motion,
Yeah.
so to speak, when you eat.
For sure.
So
Coach, thank you so much for your time today. This was amazing. Yeah, it was an honor to have you on this platform. It was good to connect again. I know, like you might not remember it, but I remember the impact that you had and just, coming up to me and introducing yourself when I was at Pittsburgh. It really stood out. And I mean, I've had a chance to do a lot of things in in my martial arts career, whether it's karate, jujitsu, but going to your camp was probably one of the most, I don't want to say life changing, but it had an impact on my career. So thank you for that. And before we exit, do you have any shout outs or anyone that you want to give thanks to right now before we leave? I always give my guests an opportunity to give a shout out to anyone that, kind of comes to mind. You don't have to, but like I want to give you that opportunity.
Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment on my camp, and I still I remember you being at the camp because on Facebook and stuff I've seen you do the jujitsu and all the other stuff, so I
Yeah.
keep tabs on and see what's going on and sort of like scanning and seeing what's going on in the karate world. I might not comment, I might not do a lot of that
Yeah.
because I guess I'm the last coach I think got on Instagram, sort of forced, but I don't. There's just too many people
Sure.
that are there that if I say one, then they're going to say, "Why didn't you say the other?" But I would just say that uh, you know I appreciate everyone's efforts, dedication, sacrifice, and everything that they've ever put into the sport because it's just not one person; it's everybody. It's everybody working together. It's not AAU. It's not USA Karate. It's not the open circuit. It's come together. Let's work together, and there's only one organization that's underneath the U.S. Olympic ranks, and you can do what you want to do, but jump over,
Yeah.
make this team that represents the world officially underneath the WKF World Karate Federation International Olympic Committee and let the world see how great our country is. Our athletes are great right now, but there's no reason there might be a diamond in the rough somewhere. It
Yeah.
might come out. I personally go to an event, open circuit event this weekend, just to see the talent and try to get them to come over because I would do a shout out. In 2016, Pittsburgh hosted the national championships with USA Karate. It's considered still one of the best ones. It was the largest one to date.
Wow.
2007, it's coming back.
Okay.
And 27, it's going to be back here, and it's going to be even better. We have some plans. I'm working with trying to get some companies involved, exporting goods. I'm working with them, trying to get them back involved as well as GNC, and so it's going to be a big thing. So that's my shout out to everybody. Come over, try it out. What's the harm?
Yeah. Absolutely. Coach, again, thank you so much for your time today. And for those watching, actually, I'm sorry, Coach, where can people find you on social media? Because I know you just mentioned Instagram. Where can people find yourself, your school, and just USA Karate if they want to get more information on on those specific things?
My all my personal information is on the usankf.org underneath the coaches resources. I'm on Instagram at Coach Baldis, just Coach in my last name.
Yep.
And my dojo is Pennsylvania Shotokan Karate Club. I think my son just started an Instagram page for that. We're so far behind on everything. I'm just, I live I'm in the mindset is I work to live. I don't live to work. And
Yeah,
my work is my passion. So I don't work a day in my life actually.
absolutely. I agree with that. Awesome. So, guys, definitely check that out. And again, Coach, I want to thank you for being on the Kumite Lifestyle podcast today and hope you enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.